Almost nothing in Genshin Impact is as important as who you allocate your pulls towards. So in this video, I'm going to go through every single 5-star and talk about how good of a pull they are for your account. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. First of all, this video is not a power rankings tier list. I will be doing a power rankings tier list shortly after the next Abyss drops, and I've had a chance to test all the characters in a couple different abysses with the release of the 2 meta characters, Moika and Citlali. But this video is arguably more important than a meta tier list, because in this video we're taking everything into account, and we are specifically aiming it at a more generalist player base as opposed to people who min-max things with their account. In addition, we're taking a more generalist look at the tiers, and it's mostly about the content of what I'm actually saying about the character, not as much which tier they actually go for, because if you want to put them in a different tier, I totally think that that could be valid, but I want to at least give my opinion, my subjective opinion of the character. So let's get into it. First of all, we're going to only talk about limited 5-stars because they're the ones you actually allocate pulls towards. And second of all, this is in line with my overall philosophy of pick the characters you like and build your teams around them. I think that's the most important advice that I would give to anybody. All right, starting with Venti. We're gonna go roughly oldest to newest, but some of them are out of order. I'm gonna put Venti in winnable if you like them. I know that he's decent in the overworld. He's decent for domains, but a lot of the domains that he was actually best in, they actually nerfed. They made the old really annoying domains that he was really good at bringing into the center. They made them a lot squishier. They took out some of the annoying mechanics. I know he's good for the early floors of the Abyss. I don't really think that pulling a character for the early floors of the Abyss is very wise. So I'm going to put winnable if you like them. There's some stuff you can do. I don't think he's quite struggle bust here, but if you wanted to argue him to be there, I think you could. But I think overall, he's definitely just winnable if you like him. You can make it work. Sometimes he's pretty good, all right in the overworld for some exploration stuff, but I think that there's a ton better that you could get. Klee, I'm going to put a little bit higher. I'm going to put solid if you like them. I think Klee is pretty underrated. She is a very solid DPS. She takes advantage of a lot of the new supports, and that has made her stronger over time. Her multipliers were solid already, and characters like Kazuha, Farina have made her better over time, as Shalonen. So although she's definitely nowhere near a meta pull, she is solid if you like Klee. I think she's definitely very annoying to play. So I really, I never recommend getting a DPS for power. Never, ever, ever, ever. Not even if they're the most broken of DPS in the game, whether you think that's Moika or Novelette. I think there's an argument for both. No character is a must pull. There's too many different really good archetypes in Genshin, and you should build around your favorites. So we are giving away a free character of your choice. Comment on any of the Tactor articles down below, and you could win your choice of a free Genshin Impact character. And you can also check out the final version of this list and any updates that have added to it if people have corrected me and I've agreed with them. Thanks again to Tactor, and make sure you give me a follow on there. Super valuable website. I also have the Moika guide, my full team's comparison sheets, and the Citlali team's comparison sheets. Super, super useful. Check it out. Childe, I'm gonna do I want to put him in solid if you like them? Very strong. I'm gonna put him in solid if you like them. I know he's really powerful still for speedrunners, not top meta, of course, but still has some really solid teams, like really good, powerful teams. But I'm not going to put them in very strong with you like them, because I just want this to be reflective for new players. We're going to take into account more heavily than usual ease of use for this tier list. I want a new player to look at this and say, if I get units in the top 2, I'm going to have an easy time playing through all of Genshin Impact due to my strong characters. So that explains why I put Zhongli in very strong if you like them. I almost want to put him in great support for many units. And because this video will hopefully reach a bunch of newer players, I'm going to put him here just because I know for mobile players, for a lot of newer players, you're going to die against Azhdaha. You're going to die against the new dragon boss. And by having a character like Zhongli, the strongest shield in the game, and still being a relevant support for the end game as well, puts Zhongli in the top tier. For the power rankings tier, he would be going here. For this tier list, which is a bit more geared towards the general player base, I'm going to put him up here. Let me know what you think down below. I think Yelan for sure goes in the top tier. Not only is she a very meta-relevant character, she's very easy to use, very free-to-play friendly, very flexible, working with everything from Hyper Bloom to Vaporize, and being able to just generally slot into a ton of different teams. She also has Exploration. Her skill is very, very, very good, so I'm going to put her up here. Yoimiya, I'm actually going to put her in solid if you like them. Even though she is much less strong than Klee and Tartaglia, she is a lot easier to play, and that is a big factor that I'm counting for this tier list. She's also wonderful to use in the overworld, and she does have strong enough teams to clear the endgame content. As long as there are single target sides of the Abyss for her to take advantage of. She does really struggle in AoE, and that's why in the power rankings I put her way down, and I'm really annoyed by her. But for a tier list like this, for most players, you are gonna be satisfied with this character as long as you're not expecting peak damage. Similar to Zhongli, with the casual bend of this tier list, Kokomi gets boosted. She is a very, very comfy character to play on field, and if you use her with Farina, with Kazuha, or Sucrose, or whoever to shred Hydro, she is a very strong and solid and comfy character to play. She has been completely overshadowed by Shalonen, but she's still extremely comfy, being a team-wide healer and on-field driver and able to do at least some damage. I'm going to put her up here. She is a solid choice. Raiden Shogun, definitely not near the power of other DPS units that are going to be on this list, but due to her absolutely crazy flexibility and due to her infinite interruption resistance, she is a great pull for most accounts. She takes advantage of almost every new support that has come out, just unable to take advantage of Moika, unfortunately, due to the way that the Night Soul mechanic works with Moika. Very, very disappointed Hoyoverse didn't just make an exception with Raiden. That would have been so wonderful, but unfortunately she's going to go here. Zhao, I'm going to put him in solid if you like them. His power-wise, he does belong closer to here, but due to his teams being very, very expensive, requiring C6 Farazan and Shen Yun, I'm going to only put him in solid. He does have very good AoE. He's very nice for exploration. He does really good base damage. He's a very nice character for new players to pick up. He is very burst reliant though, which can be really annoying. So overall, I'm going to put him over here. Hu Tao. I'm not sure if I want to put her here or here. I think I'm going to put her, I would put her here, but due to a large amount of people not being satisfied with how she plays, them being annoyed with having to do jump cancels and things like that, and she's just not quite strong enough if you just mash normals and charge attacks without learning her cancels, I'm going to put her here. Couple that with the fact that she takes her own HP, which is fine, but for overworld and like burning grass and you're not always running a super strong healer, I'm going to put her down here. I think she is a strong meta character, and we'll talk about that in the tier list, but for most people, she's going to be down here. Ayaka, same sort of thing. I think she's got a lot going for her for the overworld with her infused cryo normal attacks, with her skill. It's just her burst being very energy reliant, and then when you take her into the Abyss, Cryo is definitely showing its age right now and showing its lack of support. So she both doesn't help you push the endgame content super well while also not being the best overworld character. She does have Ice Bridge, Infinite Ice Bridge if you're skilled, which is nice, but compared to something like Farina, it's not even close. Kazuha. Now, do I want to put... I think I'm going to put him up top, even though he is definitely not as good as he once was, and I don't love him as much as I once did. I would still put him at the lower end of the top tier. His buffs are still very, very strong. He's still incredible in a lot of teams. He still has the best grouping in the game, which is still very relevant. Unless Lanyan can come in and be like better than I think she's going to be, I think Kazuha will stay at least at the bottom end of the top tier as a good recommendable pull for most players. I think there's a ton of accounts that can get away without Kazuha, and I do want to really stress that this is not the must pull section. This is just if you get one of these characters, you're probably going to be able to have a good use for them on your account characters. Yaimiko. I'm actually not sure if I want to put her here or here. I think her off-field potential is really, really nice, but I think because you have Fischl in the mix, it's hard to really, really recommend Yaimiko. If Fischl didn't exist, 100% she would be here. Maybe we could even talk about her being higher, but due to Fischl being existing and being essentially free, you'll probably get a copy or 2 or 3 or 7 or 15 of Fischl throughout your Genshin career. I'm going to put her down here just because she doesn't add too much to your account when we're looking at like overall account value. You can do some sort of scuffed Hyperbloom stuff. You can obviously use her with Fischl. You can replace Fischl, and sometimes she will be better. If you don't have a C6 Fischl, she will be better. But that's a lot of pulls to go for someone like Yoimiya. So I'm going to put her down in solid. Eula, I'm not sure. I think I'm going to put her in struggle bus. I'm going to put her in winnable. At least in the overworld, her normal attacks do a ton of damage, and you can run her with broken supports such as Farina. I'm going to put her in winnable. I don't know. Or is it struggle bus? I don't know. I think she's good enough in the overworld that you can put her in winnable. My one worry about putting Eula here is that I do think most players will struggle to make her work in the Abyss. So as long as you're watching this and you know that she still belongs, like, I don't know, like she belongs here for the Abyss, and then here she is pretty good in the overworld. There are things about her that are pretty good. She's also good for mining. These are these things that matter. Nilou. That's a really tough one because I do think Nilou is really strong, and she is fairly free to play friendly in that as long as you have a Nahida, she's pretty easy to get going. There's lots of teammate options. So she's very flexible. She does get a bit walled by certain things in the Abyss, and she's really annoying in the overworlds, so I don't know. I don't know if I want to put her here or here. I think I'm going to put her here because she's just so flexible and free to play friendly. And is like, as long as you have Nahida, you have free units that can make good teams work. In the Abyss and in the overworld, you can do vape stuff. You can do other stuff in the overworld. You can do Hyperbloom stuff. You don't need to play her restrictive team in the overworld, but her overworld performance, if you try and play to the restriction, kind of makes me want to put her here. But I do think she's like free to play friendly enough that she can go here. Ito. Similar to Zhao, I want to put him here because he does need like expensive teams. The Farina, Shalon, and Yelan team is much less expensive in terms of like you don't need a C6 Goro, you don't need his signature weapon. The damage is more spread out. So I'm gonna put him in here. Here for that, especially his Claymore. Claymore Geo is good in the overworld. Sino, I'm also gonna put him here. He's definitely on the lower end of this tier because being burst reliant is very, very annoying for the overworld, and he doesn't add a ton of value to his teams. So I'm gonna put him here. Wanderer. He does have some of the best exploration in the game. He is quite flexible. Do I put him here just for the exploration buff? Even though in the Abyss, he's pretty annoying. I mean, you can use him with a shielder. He doesn't have like the highest potential, but you still can use him with a shielder, and he is pretty easy to play. He does also need C6 Farazan, but he is really nice in the overworld. That's really tough. I think I'm gonna put him in the very top of this tier because there's so many Natlan characters with good exploration now. You don't really need to go for a Wanderer for exploration. Ooh, that's super tough. He could go in either. It really depends on like how much we weight Abyss performance versus exploration, because Abyss performance without C6 Farazan, which for this tier list, I'm not assuming. I don't know. It's tough. Nahida definitely does go in the top. She's a great support for many units and definitely belongs up there. Hyperbloom, Nilou, Alhaitham, and she can be used in a bunch of other stuff as well. Shenhe, I'm going to put her here. She's pretty hard to use all the time, regardless. I liked her in Muika Melt. I like her with Chaska, but those are sort of incidental. Her Ayaka teams are obviously solid, but I think that her value is not super, super high. Ayato. I'm going to put him in solid. I don't think it's hard to clear the Abyss with Ayato. He's not, like, is he a bad pull? Yeah, but he's not super weak. Like, he's a little undertuned, but Hydro's still strong. He can still do Hyper Bloom or Burgeon stuff. He can still do Hyper Carry stuff. He still has good enough multipliers for that. He can still do support stuff. He can do like, yeah, he can do stuff. Alhaitham, I think we can put Alhaitham in very strong. I think that there is an argument to put him here, but I think we're going to put him in very strong. I know, like I've talked about before, that he has kind of bad value because you can kind of just run a Nahida team, a Nahida Hyperbloom team without him. But a ton of players also have success not using Nahida and then using Alhaitham with Baiju and Farina or something like that, and they're still getting success. I don't think he's as strong as some of the newer units, and I think he's a little bit overrated by a good chunk of the community, but I think especially because his teams are so easy to play and he gets a good boost of power, and he's pretty flexible. Like there's a bunch of different teams you can make, and you can do spread or Hyper Bloom. I still think he's pretty strong. Ganyu, I'm gonna put her in solid, especially because her overworld performance is really, really good. There's some cool dual DPS stuff with Moika, but definitely lower down, like close to the lower tier, just because she's annoying to use in the Abyss, unless you're using her with Moika, basically. Linny, I'm gonna put him in solid. I don't want to put him higher because he's like, a lot of people have a hard time using him, obviously including myself, but the charge shot playstyle is just not for everyone, and he does have some of the highest potential in the game, but he's just not easy enough to use for a lot of people. Baizhu, I think I'm gonna put him here, similar to Kokomi. He's very strong if you like him. You can do Hyper Bloom Driver. You can do like a Cope Nahida support. Like instead of Nahida, you can use Baizhu on Alhaitham teams. He can be used on Aggravate teams. He can be used on Novelette teams. He's just a very, very solid, very, very comfy unit. I definitely don't think he belongs on the top tier, but he is extremely comfy, and the refreshing shield is just beautiful. So I like Baizhu still, even though he's not like the best meta pull. This still is if you like them, right? I don't recommend pulling any of these characters unless you particularly like them, whereas these are great supports, sort of regardless. Chiori, this might be a hot take. I'm gonna put her here. I kind of want to put her here. If she came with C1, she would go up here. Maybe she would, but I kind of feel like if she had C1, she would go up here. But I do have to remember I also have her 5-star weapon, and I don't know, but she does go up in the higher units, even at C0, even with Harbinger of Dawn. Used with Shalonen or used with Zhongli, she does make up a really, really solid core. And being an off-field DPS is quite valuable. I don't know, I'm gonna put her here and see how I feel. Because believe it or not, I do think Albedo does belong here. Albedo Shalonen as a core is really good. Can be used with Moika, can be used with Arlecchino, can be used with Novelette. Like, Shalonen just added a lot of value to these characters. I'm thinking maybe something like this, whereas Chiori is at the top here and Albedo is kind of, you know, a bit lower down. Novelette, you know, he is so strong that you could almost call him a DPS that is a support, but I'm not going to. I still stand behind you shouldn't get DPSs unless you really, really like them. Risley, another solid, super solid DPS. I think he's basically like, he doesn't have the peaks that Linny has, but he's much easier to use. Kind of like Wanderer. He does have the Ice Bridge, but he doesn't have much else for the overworld, so I think he's really solid. Farina, she's definitely much less valuable than she used to be. But with Citlali and Moika coming out, Citlali definitely replaced Farina on a bunch of teams or gave another option, even Novelette teams, but still, she's still a really solid pick for most accounts. And remember, these are not must pulls. None of them. None of these are must pulls. Genshin is a branching tree where you pick your favorite strategies and then pick other ones that go along with it. Shenyan. I think Shenyan's very strong if you like her. She kind of like Baizhu is a nice comfy healer type character. She's often on banners with Faruzan. I think it seems to be what they're doing lately. But you also do get Jean for free. And I don't know how. Plunge doesn't add a crazy amount. So I'm going to put her actually in this tier. But I do like her. Navia. I'm going to put Navia in the higher tier for sure. Not only does she have much higher peaks with Shalonen, she is, as I predicted when Navia came out, I predicted that she would be one of the higher tier DPSs. Probably not as good as Novelette, but much higher than she was at release, because at that time she didn't have characters that perfectly synergize with her. And now, lo and behold, we have Shalonen. The prophecy has come true. Jello was right all along. Navia is very strong. Not only does she sheet pretty high damage lately, with Moika it's even better, but she's very, very easy and comfortable to play. So that's why, yeah, I think this is the order. This is the order for this tier right now. Cloran. Cloran got buffed. Does she belong in solid or very strong? I'm definitely going to put her up here because she does have shielded teams and she is on a banner with Chevreuse now. She's a much more recommendable pull now that we have Chevreuse. Before Chevreuse on her banner, it was a bit tougher. Her aggravate teams are more annoying to play. Shalonen made them easier. You can run Shalonen and either Baizhu or Kirara. I prefer Kirara personally because Cloran can only heal herself anyways while she's on field. And then Fischl. And so you have that as like a brain dead easy shielded team, as well as the Toma versions. And then if you want peak, like close to peak damage, not quite as high as like sort of Melt you know, Arlecchino and all that jazz, but she has multiple team options that don't take super valuable characters. Like, Chevre's teams free up everyone for the other side. Now you have Xiaolonen, Furina, Yelan, Citlali. You can use anyone else on the other side. And so Chevre's is like such a valuable team core. Often don't even use Bennett. So yeah, I'm going to put her here. She also has like all right overworld exploration with her spamming her dash. I don't love it, but it's all right. Are people going to be mad that I'm putting her here and leaving all of these guys down here? I feel like maybe characters like Hu Tao, you could argue Wanderer because of his amazing exploration. I feel like there's a bunch of characters down here that you could argue being up here. And so if you do, you know, I understand. I get it. Arlecchino definitely belongs up here. Very strong if you like her. Definitely one of the most recommendable. These are the most recommendable DPSs to go for. Sijuin, I guess she's gonna go in winnable. At least she's a healer for Furina, I guess. I don't know, man. In the overworld, it's fine. I don't know. I feel like I don't need these last two tiers. I feel like this is like I'm being nice, and this is I'm dunking on your character. But people get it. These are the bottom tier. Even if I don't put them down here, people get it. Okay. Emily, I definitely think that Emily belongs up here. Very, very strong, nice support. She's like if Shiori was C1, right? Because all you need is burning. So whether it's Moika, Arlecchino, whoever. Mualani, I'm definitely, maybe I could have put them up here. She is very strong if you like her. She does have great overworld. Ooh, she does have great overworld. Okay, I was gonna put her down here because she's really annoying to play, but she is amazing in the overworld. To get great clears with her is really annoying. And, you know, I talked about all her jank right from the beginning, and despite that, I really loved her because of her nuking potential. But now we have other characters that can nuke even more than her and do so much more easily. So she's gone down a lot for her recommendability for me. And I also really expected things to happen that would take away some of her jank, but it never did. So Xiaolonen, one of the best pulls. I almost would recommend Xiaolonen before Furina. Maybe not even almost. I would actually recommend most people get Xiaolonen before Furina because she opens up. Like, a lot of characters don't necessarily need Furina as much as they could use Xiaolonen. Like Clorand would prefer Xiaolonen first. Navia prefers Xiaolonen first. Arlecchino prefers Xiaolonen first. Novelette doesn't care. Both of them are about just as good. Mualani prefers Xiaolonen first. Alhaitham prefers Furina. So I feel like Xiaolonen is sort of the more recommendable pull. Will that mean that I put her ahead on the power rankings tier list? I'm not sure. I'm still thinking about it. Chaska definitely belongs up here. She's like Wanderer, but much easier to use and still has the overworld exploration stuff. So she's a very recommendable DPS. Not the highest DPS ever, but I think with Citlali, she passes Wanderer. So yeah, good for Chaska. Chaska is a solid pull. And then we'll do Kinich next. I think we're going to put Kinich here. I think he belongs here. I do think he's stronger than Alhaitham. I think his teams are a little bit less free-to-play friendly, but still very, very strong. Citlali definitely going in the top. Not as high as Xiaolonen, but for Melt, she's extremely high. I don't know. Her peaks are higher than Furina, but her teams are less, so I'm not sure who to put ahead. And then Moika. She is a very strong DPS. She has some supportive potential. I'm definitely going to put her, I don't know if I'm going to put her in Novelette higher up, but she's definitely one of the most recommendable DPSs. And for the overworld exploration, I'm going to put her a bit higher. I'm definitely going to put her a bit higher for overworld, and the fact that she can be a support, but I don't think she supports enough units to be here. If everyone was given a Citlali for free, I would put Moika on top. So if you own a Citlali, then Moika is very, very good. But yeah, this is my tier list for how recommendable the characters are, for who is most worth it pull value wise. If you want to see a screenshot that you can send to your friends, it's down below. And if you super disagree with something here, message me on Discord and maybe I'll change it around. Any updates, any changes that I make will be updated on the Tactor version, and I'll note them in the pinned comment as well. And subscribe while you're at it. Let me know your thoughts. And if you don't want to do any of that, that is totally fine. Just watching the video has been more than enough. Thanks so much. Bye for now.